Very good morning everyone. Yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Mustafa Muhammad, Board of Directors ASLI, Professor Abhimanyu Virakumarasivam, Deputy Vice Chancellor and Provost, Sunway University, Mr. Daniel Rahman, CEO, Asian Strategy and Leadership Institute, Dr. Iwan Syahril, Senior Advisor, Global Institute of Teach for All, Professor Cheng Mian Wee, Executive Director, Sunway International School, Professor Melissa Maria Mahmud, Dean, School of Education, Ms. Karen Chan, Managing Director, SDG Academy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Students, a dialogue on education, leadership and transforming system. My name is Anas from ASLI and it's my pleasure to be your host this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, this event is co-hosted by ASLI, Sunway University, Sunway College and the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network. The title of the event borrows from a new book by our speaker this morning, a fitting one because everything he built over 5 years leading Indonesia's Ministry of Education came back to the same question: how do you transform a system that serves millions without losing sight of the people it exists to serve? Ladies and gentlemen, rebus pisang kelapa sedulang, gula ada di dalam piring. Selamat datang, selamat bertandang, ikhlas mesra kami mengiring. To walk you through one more. Okay, one more. Kalau tidak kerana bulan, tidak bintang terbit tinggi. Kalau tidak tuan dan puan, tidak majlis sepermai ini. More coming soon. To walk you through this morning, we'll begin with a welcoming remark by Mr. Daniel Rahman, followed by a presentation from our speaker, Dr. Iwan Syahril, and we will close with a moderated Q&A session where the floor belongs to you to ask some questions. Ladies and gentlemen, to move on to our first agenda this morning, let me invite Mr. Daniel Rahman, Chief Executive Officer of ASLI, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Please welcome.
Right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Of course, Dr. Sri Mustafa Muhammad, our Board of Directors, my distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here at this time of day. I see many familiar faces. Welcome to our dialogue on leadership and education. Dr. Iwan, thank you so much for being with us today. Zam, for connecting. What I'd like to say is why we are very keen today is the education journey is one that is always of interest. Having served in the Ministry of Education and Higher Education, we always say that in Malaysia we've got at least 10 million experts, which are the parents and the guardians, 5 million more experts, which are the students, and 33 million experts, which is pretty much everyone who's been through the education system. And even then, ladies and gentlemen, that does still not fulfill the 53 million just students that Dr. Iwan had under his auspices at the Ministry of Education in Indonesia. So such is the scale that I believe we can learn from his insights today. Of course, we have Dr. Sri Mustafa Muhammad here, who's the former Higher Education Minister. Last night, we celebrated the 60th anniversary of the Tunku Abdul Rahman Foundation, and I would love to share that Tok Pa was the one who introduced the modern Tunku Scholars Award. So let's give a round of applause for Tok Pa. As I said, many friends here. You have Datuk Satina, who was also a former director of the Ministry of Education. She also served the then Deputy Prime Minister, and someone who's been in education, Datuk, 40, 50 years now, thereabouts. Yeah. Not trying to review, I think. Of course, Nina here also. We've got our partners. I must acknowledge our partners here today. Karen Chan, the Managing Director of SDSN Asia, and under them they've got the Mission 4.7 that looks at education for sustainable development. Of course, Shannon, I see Dawn here as well. We've got Prof. Melissa, who is the Dean of Education. We just wave to everybody. Prof. Melissa, working very hard to build Sunway University's education arm. Scholarships got not for anyone interested? Got okay, just gotta say. Of course, there's Prof. Mien, who is our Executive Director for the Sunway International Schools, as well as the Director for the Pre-University Program here at Sunway College. Thank you, Prof, for supporting us today. And of course, Professor Abhimanyu, our Provost for Sunway University, who has been very instrumental. Prof. Abi and I were recently members of the new higher education blueprint 2026-2035 that was launched in January. So if anybody has any problems with the blueprint, please take it up with him, not with me. He led the team. I just proofread stuff. No. But to be fair, Prof. Abi's passion in steering, specifically we handled the talent development in higher education, looking at mental health, looking at career progression and the likes. Why? Because as Dr. Iwan and I were discussing this morning, it is about the people, right? It is about the students as much as it is, however, about the lecturers and the teachers who are nurturing the future generations. I hope I've mentioned, of course, many friends from TFM, Pemimpin, and the likes. So I welcome you once again. I'm very excited to listen to Dr. Iwan shortly. Let me just have a look what else my team helped prepare that I have not covered, just to make sure. Yes, I have to introduce Dr. Iwan as well. So Dr. Iwan served as Director General of Indonesia's Ministry of Education from 2020 to 2025, closely involved in leading the Merdeka Belajar reform across a system of over 50 million students, 420,000 schools and 3.3 million teachers. Just for your info, Dr. Iwan, we have about 450,000 teachers within the Malaysian system. You have 420,000 schools within the system. Dr. Iwan has also served as Dean of Education at Sampurna University, chaired the G20 Education Working Group during Indonesia's 2022 presidency and the ASEAN Education Ministers and Senior Official Meeting, among others, and has contributed to UNESCO initiatives on strengthening the teaching profession. So today we're not just about listening to what Dr. Iwan's experiences are, but what we can learn from it. And his book, Students, provides an inside perspective on what it means to lead transformation at scale. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again. I'll pass the floor to Anas. Perhaps one more pantun before Dr. Iwan takes the floor. Thank you very much. And I don't have one ready, but thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel, for the welcoming remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker has spent his career answering at national scale this question this morning is built around. I'm sure everyone has heard his biography from Mr. Daniel just now. So before I pass the floor to him, yang dirisik diterima, yang diharap ketapak tangan, yang disingkap pasti disuka, yang dibisik bergema, yang diderap bergentayangan, yang diungkap sekilau kartika. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Iwan Syahril to the floor. Oh, you want to speak? Okay, sure. Can I just put the mic?
Oh, okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very humbled I'm looking around the room. I just also had a very quick chat with Dr. Sri Mustafa Muhammad and Dr. Satina. Humbled by the collective wisdoms also in this room. Professor Min, she insisted on calling her Auntie Min. Professor Abi and Daniel, thank you so much for having me here, and everyone that I cannot maybe mention, but thank you for taking the time. I'll start with this. A lot of leaders, wherever they are, struggle with translating vision, even well-designed strategies, into implementation. Not because maybe they have like the best consultant team, they have the best talented people for implementing the strategies, but it's something else that made the implementation is not running according to its plan. That is actually the main proposition for me in this talk. And it is based from a book that I just recently published. And I want to make 3 disclaimers about this book first. It's easy to associate this book when you hear the title Student, Student, Student. Oh, it must be about classroom or school or something related with education. That's right away. But the real title that I wanted to decide for this book, actually the human journey in leadership and system transformation. So the student, it does have the philosophical, and I'll explain to you later, but from the marketing team, they said that, oh, that's catchy, let's use that. And it's actually it's based on my story. But the real essence of the book is actually about the human journey. I want to underline that, it's the human journey in leadership and system transformation. Oh, okay. And the book, disclaimer number one, the book was written not because I want to share about the stories of success. The book was written based on the scar tissue of having been in this journey of leading transformation. A lot of the things in the book are actually me connecting the dots backwards, rather than what I thought at the time when I wanted to do the transformation. It was actually the opposite. And the reason for me to write this, because I felt, and based on my experience, a lot of leaders at the system level, they felt like no matter what kind of training or credentials that they had in the past, they were not prepared for that role. It was very lonely. It felt like you are thrown to the open sea, whether you sink or you swim. So sink and swim moment. So I felt that there is a calling for me to share, not because that this story is like, or my journey is, I just want to contribute to other change leaders. Hopefully they're not repeating the same mistakes and they can have some kind of foundation so then we can move forward, because my mission is about our collective humanity. So how can we bring our society forward? So not running in circles. So that is number one. So it's scar tissue, not like things that I already knew from the beginning. The second one, the book was written actually, I wanted to communicate cross-sector. And that was the most difficult part in writing this, because throughout my life, I always started as a teacher. I always engaged in education, but I wanted to communicate to cross-sector, because I think it's not just unique about education. No matter when you heard about the description of the scale of Indonesia, the complexity, it sounds scary, but I think the key principles are similar, or maybe some foundational principles are the same wherever you are, whether you're leading a unit, organization, an institution, or or system, a state level or district level or another country level. It's kind of like the same kind of principles. I want to communicate that. That's the hardest part, because I always my editors this is maybe too much to education, and I was happy when the copy editor said that she was not from education at all. She was from the course literature studies, and she said that, okay, I understand what you're talking about now. So I was happy with that. So intentionally for cross-sector. So I hope in this audience there are people also beyond education sector. The third one, I want to reach the change leaders. Either aspiring change leaders, maybe you are thinking about, I want to be a change leader, or you are the current change leader, or the former change leader. So those are the core audience of this book. So let me take you to the three things that I want to share about my journey. Hopefully there are one or two things will resonate to you. Can we go to the next slide? I think the topic of change is even more important now. There is a term that I learned that disruption is the new normal, 20 years ago. I don't know, now it's even more normal. So if you're not used to disruption or leading or managing disruption or just making sense of the disruption, I think we can be lost or not achieving what we want to achieve. The thing is, in my 5 years in the government, and I was also engaged in the multilateral forums, I felt that we are recycling the same issues over and over and over again. And I felt like, why can't we move? It seems to be hard, but it was the pattern that I observed and I realized towards the end of my role in the government. We love to talk about this. But at the end of the day, after a while, we see, wow, actually it's not changed much. There was a book that I read in my first semester in my master's degree in Colombia. I was a Fulbright scholar, so I went to the United States trying to find the answer, how to, actually at the time it was still about change, but how to change teachers. That was my inquiry. The first line of inquiry is how teachers change, because I observed if we've done like all this leadership, professional development training for teachers, they're inspired, but then they go back to the classroom, and after 1 year, you look back, it's kind of like stay the same. Yeah. So I wanted to find that answer, only to find, in my first semester, there was this book. It's called Kayak and Cuban, Tinkering Upon Utopia. But basically, the book is about a century, 100 years of public school reform. This is written by a historian. They come to the conclusion of the structure of the classroom remained the same. I wanted to find an answer, and I had that book, my core reading. So I was like, what the hell am I doing here? I'm supposed to, you're supposed to give me some answers. So then I learned that, oh, okay. So in education, actually, it's quite similar everywhere in the world. So anyway, so how can we solve this problem better? This is my intention. So let's find out the first one, why change is hard. The second one, the framework that I offer you, I call this PLC. And the third one, I want to highlight on emotional intelligence. So this is my understanding, my reflection about why change is actually hard. So without understanding the problem, we cannot find the right solution, right? So 50% of problem solve is usually find the right problem or understand the problem. So my understanding is, next slide please. Oh.
Clicker, where you going to use it? Clicker.
Yes, thank you. There are 5 things that I wrote in the book, but I just cluster it in 3. The first, the nature of change. The second, the nature of human being. And the third one, the nature of our environment. So first, the nature of change. I was in a conference one day, and there was a question from one of the participants, and I was the fellow participants too. So we're listening to some panelists, and she asked the question, how can we do change, but we still keep the same structure? Tell me how to do change, but we don't change the structure. And to me, the answer was obvious. The answer is you cannot do that. If you want to do change, then you have to reorganize your resources, your structure, how you work, because the problem that you are trying to solve is going to be different. So the problem number 1, we assume that if we want to do change, then we want to do the same thing or the same kind of structure. No, change means moving from the current status quo. Things will be not the same. So if we choose change, we want change, we need change, we choose change. If you choose change, you cannot have that kind of assumption. That's already mistake number 1. So having that awareness is very important. Things will not be the same, accept that. But then we come to the second one, the nature of human being. And there are 3 things here. First, I learned throughout my journey of understanding change, from teacher to school to the system, we are wired not to actually embrace change. It's 2 things. It is psychology and biology. And to me, I want to share one very important book to reveal this to me. Is a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. I think you must be familiar with that, by Daniel Kahneman. So Thinking Fast, System 1. Thinking 2, he calls that System 2. Thinking Slow, System 2. Thinking Fast is when you don't need actually to think. For me, like, I know Professor Min here is also math, right? So I'm going to use the math example. It's kind of like 2 + 2 equals, everyone can answer, everyone can come to the conclusion, I'm very confident. Basically, system 1 is about we need the system 1 because it's something to do with our routine, our habit. It's already we internalized that. Just like driving. For me, if you ask me to drive in KL, even though it's not like as crazy as in Jakarta, I'll be using not system 1. I'll switch to system 2. I don't know the habit of the drivers, the regulations, all the things that you have internalized. For me, they're not. So that's when you can, after a while, you internalize that, the habits, the routines. That's system 1. And system 2, when you're confronted with something that is complex, it's not 2 plus 2. It's 2 divided by 0.22 times a quarter of 12 divided by 53. Suddenly, you need to pause. I don't know, maybe you are very good at mental math, but I would grab a piece of paper and try to, okay, slow down. Can you repeat again? You need to activate the slow thinking. I put it in a very simple way. Of course, Daniel Kahneman used it in a very detailed explanation. But this system 1 and 2, basically the first one, when it comes to change, what is the relation? When you have internalized habits, then if something is not according to that pattern, there is an alarm goes in your brain. Fear, anxiety, uncertainty. And what does our body tell us to do? The automatic response, the more comfortable response, switch back to the pattern that you're familiar to. You will feel safe. Psychology. Biology, system 2. When we are confronted with complex problems, complex issues, we need the energy to process it, to digest it, to solve it. So when you are confronted with that, I even forget what I said about that complex equation, you will need, if I can imagine if I just like have a very long day at work and I'm very tired, bad traffic, come home, my kid come to me and say, Dad, can you, I said, okay, stop. Maybe it's like a simple thing. After I take a shower, I eat dinner and then we'll talk. Why? Because you're already drained. Even the simple things, when you are drained, your body is drained, you won't be able to want to listen to it, let alone complex things. So system 2 requires our energy, big energy. The more complex, usually when we talk about change, it's usually more complex than the routine or what we already used to. There's a term, better the devils, That's actually our tendency. So number 1, it's just human nature. But if we want to do change, we need to identify that and do something. But the second one, this I also learned in the stakeholders, I noticed that people who before maybe have the same kind of roots with us, ideological values, philosophies, but then when we are leading change, they become our opposition. They become people who are not in the same bandwagon with us. And I had those people, and I wonder what went wrong. Like, isn't that like we were fighting for the same kind of mission? What happened? So apparently I noticed this pattern, that the illusion of clean change. And I was guilty of that too, because usually these people come from the universities, the theories. We want like beautiful frameworks. Everything should be according to the framework. But you know what happened? I was guilty of this too, because this is not something that I learned before. This is something I learned connecting backwards. Is that the real situation when you deal with people and leading with that kind of complexity, nothing will go according to the assumptions of the theories of frameworks. Whatever you learn is always something new. But we cannot make these people who don't see that to also understand it. You have to also be okay with that. They will be those people. And the third category in terms of human is very easy. I call this the gatekeepers of the status quo. People who benefit from the broken system. It's easy to identify, but sometimes not easy because they are experienced players. They will pretend, but they will sabotage. But this is easy to expect. That's your instinct. But the first two is not. They are not that very straightforward. But the thing about number three is sometimes they are. You're fighting with a group of the stakeholders who are fighting for survival. So it's also a human. Understand that it's also the human instinct. If you cannot manage that, there's no ways out. They will. That's actually the most difficult stakeholder that you have to deal with. And the last one. So we got the nature of change, human being, and the third one, the nature of our current environment. It's so noisy. So noisy. To communicate a message, to penetrate that noise, you know, the most important currency at the moment is attention. Right? You can spend your time, but if your mind is not there, and attention doesn't mean understanding. This is another level. And understanding doesn't mean acceptance. It's another level. But just to penetrate that noise, to get to the attention, it is a huge effort. And then you have also to make sense of the noise. And that is also not easy. So the noisier the environment, the more complex the situation is. But again, we are given with this nature. This is just to understand the problem. This is how I see it. So the second part of my talk is about the solution of the framework. I call this PLC. So the first P is purpose. Can I ask a quick question? If you feel like at the moment you are leading change, can you raise your hand? In whatever context, small or big, doesn't matter. Okay, thank you. Of course. Now ask this question to yourself. What is the purpose of your mission in transformation? And I will share three things about purpose. First, it needs to be not about you. It needs to be not about your group. It needs to be greater than yourself or your group. It's very important in leading transformation. We're talking about moving from status quo. Once people see the opposite, the other way, it's about you, it's about your group, it's going to be more difficult, much more difficult. But that is number one. The second one, and this is the title of my book, you need to simplify it. And this is also I learned from my former boss. I come from academic. I love educated terms to sound smart, right? The more proper term, the more proud I am to show that I know my stuff. You know, in practice, in leadership, it's counterproductive. Of course, like I have this document that tells that the mission of our education transformation is to develop students holistically, in literacy, numeracy, computational thinking, all this blah, 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 right? We were creating an angel. But the challenge that I was asked this, maybe my first year I struggled. The question was, how would this mother, how would this teacher in this remote area, in this remote village, would understand what we're talking about? And that really threw me off balance. I could blame that, oh, they're not educated. They even didn't graduate elementary school. No, you cannot do that. They are your stakeholders. So always goes to the lowest common denominator in your ecosystem to make sure that they get it. So I tried different things, and this is like a story. I tried different things, and I remember this. I was in the podium briefing teachers, and heads of the local government. By the way, we have 552 autonomous local governments in Indonesia. So briefing them, and I said, okay, and it was still my early years in the government. So the goal of our mission in this transformation is three things. The first one, they started to be serious, right? Because this is important person, like talking, you know, like they need to report back to their staff later, right? The first one, and they start to listen to me, and I paused, said students, and they took notes, and then I said the second one, students, and they started to like look at each other, like did they hear it wrong? And I said the third one, students. So they started to like smile and look at me, and then students, students, students. And then suddenly it just like felt like a relief. Oh, it is actually simple to remember. But you know what happened? Like months later, I was crossing like one island, small island in the eastern part of Indonesia. And one of my regular habits is to sit together with them, cross-legged, and just like asking, you know, like open-ended questions. So tell me what's working, what's not working with our current education in your own context. And they started to share. One particular school leader at the time, like tried to comment on her peers' comment. And then she said, isn't that what we're doing is student, student, student? In Indonesia it's called murid, murid, murid. Yeah? Kan murid, murid, murid. I was like, wow, how did this happen? How did what I said in Jakarta travel all the way to even this remote area? Even like the capital, I couldn't even, this is like even like very challenging context. It actually got through these layers of noise. So I said, oh, okay. So I repeated that again all the time. And the third one about purpose, you have to communicate it like a broken record. And I couldn't do it for a while. It felt so awkward. You have to repeat yourself again and again and again. Who told me this? My communication consultant. He said, sir, you have to repeat it minimum 7 times for people to notice. I was like, 7 times? The same audience? I have to repeat it? Yes. I was like, wow, that extreme. I don't know, maybe if the science, communication science got the research now, this was based on the research maybe 20 years ago, but maybe now with that noise that we have now, I don't know, maybe 35 times, 5 times as much. But you need to be a broken record. Every single time, I open my meeting, I talk like public talk, talking to parents. I had like different ways of saying this. Students, students, students. And then people started to notice, you know what happened when the purpose is understood, and if they see it bigger than yourself, it will start a movement. That's how you start the ownership of doing the transformation. People will follow that, even they haven't met you, they haven't been in the same room with you. Even because they understand and they believe it, they'll do something about it, even with their very limited conditions. So purpose is the anchor of everything. As a leader of change, purpose is your soul. If you fail to communicate this, if you fail to make your stakeholders own this, it's going to be an uphill battle. Even more uphill battle. It's still uphill battle. The second one, prioritization. Bold prioritization. This is what my former boss told me over and over. Iwan, if everything is important, nothing is important. If you say to me everything is a priority, what you're telling me, nothing is a priority. I want priority. Because why? In the public sector, we have limited political time to start with. But in other contexts, wherever you lead change, you must have limited resources, you must have limited context, so you have to prioritize. Do not boil the ocean, because the ocean never boils. right? Try boil the ocean. Do not do that. Overwhelming. You're killing yourself. But as a leader, this is the most difficult part, because you have to make that decision. It's on you. It's easy to say, but you must be responsible, and people will blame you. Why? You have to choose for the things that you think is priority. The people who already not chosen as the priority sector, whatever you say, they will be angry. But that is the price of leadership. What will make it easier? Purpose. Back to purpose. When you have a clear purpose, when you come to very difficult dilemma and want to communicate why, you have a clarity of purpose, that will help you tremendously. Again, this is the anchor. The third one, the first L, leadership. Leadership, first, insight. You need to have a team leadership that is aligned on purpose, back to purpose with you, have the integrity, and wants to learn. But in leading change, especially if a complex system, you need to find the change agents. What do you do with them? First, you need to identify them, find them. No, I don't understand your context, but you must find a way to identify the change agents. What is the most important thing to finding change agents, in my opinion? Again, alignment to purpose. Find those people who you think already have that alignment with purpose. Develop them. Nurture them. Give them some kind of ways to upgrade themselves that strengthening not their skills. Don't invest in your change agents for skills, but mindset. What is one of the most important mindset change for me in my experience is what we call this asset-based thinking, right? Seeing not half glass empty, but half glass full. There are teachers, leaders that I found in very super challenging. I cannot imagine. There was this regency, Kabupaten, we call this Kabupaten, has 117 islands in Sulawesi. Like the islands kind of from the main island of Sulawesi all the way down to the south. 117. I went to this regency and then I sat down with the teachers and school leaders and the local government, and they started to share. And one particular female leader shared that, oh, Pak Iwan, we have done this for 6 months and I would like to share with you. Yes, Bu, apa? And then she said that we've been doing this professional learning community, that's her PLC, for 6 months, and we travel from one island to another island to help other teachers, other leaders who didn't get the training that you have provided to us, right? He said, okay. But, and I said to the head of the local government, Pak, Bapak tahu, do you know about this? They didn't know. So apparently, this community of school leaders and teachers, they just traveled from the main island to other islands, small islands, on their own initiative. They didn't have that much money. They're still struggling. The local government didn't fund them. That they had that courage to go, because we have this, nurturing this, we call this Guru Penggerak. This is our graduate of our leadership program. We had these change agents at the grassroots level who are doing all this movement without us knowing. They didn't have to report to us. They didn't feel the reward is about reporting to us and get the recognition. But the work in itself, and by the way, crossing islands in Indonesia is super expensive. And half of these ladies, a lot of 90% actually female teachers, couldn't swim. And you know the small boat, the one that travel from island to, it's not like the proper boat that we, no, they had this courage and figure it out. And they taught me a lot. So this is the leadership that you want to see. And I'm trying to explain again, maybe this is the context of education in Indonesia, but you can relate to yourself. How can you find these change agents within your unit, within your organization? Super important, because you cannot do it alone. The fourth one, the second L, is learning. In change, moving from status quo, I can guarantee you it's not a technical challenge. The change that we're talking about here is not a change that you can just follow the SOP, you're fine. That's not the change that I'm talking about. It's more like disruptive, transformative. And you need to, you don't know. We cannot pretend, leaders, please don't pretend you know all the answers. You have to provide opportunities to learn from, even for yourself. We tell our teachers or our school leaders, when you observe your student and what we have told you is not helpful and you try to do something else, you are the right one. We are the wrong one. Don't follow what we've told you because if you think it's not relevant to help your students. So the accountability is not going up. Accountability is going down. That's who you serve. And I learned this from a principal in East Nusa Tenggara who said, I don't fear the supervisor, the school supervisor. I fear the student. She used the term, saya takut murid, Pak. Takut saya bukan sama pengawas. Saya takut sama murid. I said, why, Bu? I was shocked. Basically, she was saying something philosophical, but in a very simple, practical way. Ya, kalau kita tidak siap untuk mengajar sama anak-anak, tanggung jawab kita gimana sama anak-anak? I was like, this lady, the school building is still with the rotten walls. It's not a proper wall. And yet she was talking something philosophical and powerful. And that's what happened when we empower them to have the agency and trust autonomy to learn. If they fail, we don't shame the failure. The failure is part of the learning because it's for the purpose and we don't know the right answer. So give the space for that, hold the space and set the tone. It's not about the ranking, it's not about who is better than, but have the spirit of collectiveness. In Indonesia, I think maybe you know this well, the gotong royong spirit. It's the collective. So how do we reward good schools or good teacher? Give them a recognition and then assign them to help other schools. We call this, there is a lighthouse school. Yes, we prepare these schools to be better, but once they get to the level, what's the reward? Become the lighthouse school for others. They help other schools. So then we advance together. So this is the spirit of learning that we are looking for in your organization, in your unit, in leading change. The third letter C, communication. Let me tell you a story where I felt at the lowest point during my time in the ministry. And this, I almost resigned. It happened 2 months, 3 months after I started my role as Director General. Suddenly I created national crisis. I almost resigned. Basically, I couldn't understand at that time. We used the best model of strategy based on best practices internationally. We used the most transparent accountability system, involvement, communication, like very open. Everything was open and we're very responsive to, at the time I thought, quite responsive to any questions. But then we launched this policy, we launched this program, and because my minister was super ambitious to be what to do in 5 years, so I had to, okay, we've launched this program, let me move to the next one. So we've launched this, right? So it has the SOP, it has all the procedures. I just like, okay, now just implementation. So I switched to the next big priority, national priority in the pipeline that we need to launch. And then that became a crisis. What happened? Well, there is something political too. But for me, as a leader of change, the lesson was, I didn't maintain the momentum of the narrative of the program. So I thought, I already explained it, it's everywhere on the website, coverage by the media, people will understand, right? And I moved to the next one, and that was the comms that I did. I moved to the next one, And then suddenly there was like issue about political reshuffle. And the target was the change of minister, but they went through my program. And the opposition redefined this program to something that suddenly the public became questioning us, right? What I'm trying to say is when you lead change, you will create ripples. You will create maybe waves. If you don't control the narrative of your change program, others will define it to this ecosystem. When that happens, and then you got an attack for the program that you're doing, no matter how right, how beautiful your program or policy is, or the initiative, how genuine you are, you will be on the defensive. Once you are seen in the defensive, you lose the battle. And that happened to me. I felt like I was being in the, the heated presidential election. Really like to my family. All the way from Jakarta, I'm from West Sumatra, all the way to West Sumatra. People questioning, attacking, it was super painful. Couldn't imagine that. And I said, I'm not signed up for this. I want to resign. But then, of course, my team actually at the time was very good holding the space for me. But then connecting the dots, I learned that, oh, okay, I think it's the communication. And this is what I learned. If you want to create disruption, especially in the big scale, 50% of your success is about communication. Not about the policy, the strategy, it's about communication. Especially when we go back to the noisy environment. What do we mean? What did I learn about communication? It's not about just broadcasting, looking good, no. You need to be strategic about your key messages. Second, you need to assess risk. And you need to know how to deal with the stakeholders. So strategic communication is not about publishing content, but it's about being strategic about how to get your message across by having a consistent, my communication team called this the house message house. What are the key themes? They have these pillars. We are very intentional about what to say. And then risk assessment and crisis management. That is strategic communication. You will come to crisis, it will happen. But if you don't have a comms team, you could end up what happened to me. Even with those better communication teams after that, still we faced that, let alone when we didn't have that. And the second of the third letter, the choice. I'll explain with this visual. I think most of you must be familiar with the law of diffusion of innovation, right? One of the classic book from Everett Rogers. This is for me how to understand change in the social setting. When you want to do change, you always find three categories in the population. The first one, the early adopters, first group, not that many, 20% of the population. The second one, late adopters, this is the biggest group. It's about 60% of the population. And the third one, the laggards, is about 20% of the population. The early adopters are your friends. They are more likely to be open to the new ideas. They are maybe just open-minded by nature. They love your ideas, but not right away. It takes time. And also in this category, the innovators, the one who own the first idea. And then the second one, late adopters, they will want to embrace the new idea when they see the early adopters do it first. Oh, if you do it, I can see the results. Okay, I'll join you. The third one, and you can always find this, I guarantee you, no matter what you do, no matter what evidence that you show them, no matter what data you show them, they will never change. They will only change because they don't have any other option. because the rest of the population already changed. Terpaksa. You always find this. Accept this first. For me, like, that's a hard lesson to learn this. Focus on early adopters. That's what I mean by choice. Do not mandate disruptive change, if possible. Of course, in the public sector, it's not you cannot say that. Because sometimes you have to. Udah, ikut atasan. But then you know the consequence, because this is the consequence. If you just focus change, you say, okay, those who want to start, let's start. You're addressing the first group. The second group, no consequence. Third group, no consequence. They can do like business as usual. That's fine. If you mandate change, you touch 1, 2, 3 at the same time. You know what happened? Group number 3, even they're only 20%, will be the angriest group of all, the most toxic of all. They're only 20%, but they're the loudest. And you know what happened after that? They will take the late adopters. Instead of to be late adopters going there, it will be early laggards. Right away. And I was like, there was this program that we did. Until it was just, I learned this, I can say this with conviction today, because I had this experience. This program was good, beautiful for 2 years. Suddenly in the 3rd year, because of without our control, we had to make it mandatory. Suddenly it became national crisis again. What happened? Because the laggards were not ready yet. We're still in the late adopters kind of phase. So the laggards were so angry, and it became again national crisis. So when you mandate change, this will become, you will be busy firefighting. Yeah. Instead of innovation, you'll be firefighting. But if you offer it by choice, by invitation, bigger chance for you to actually be more successful. That's what I mean by choice. And I'll stop with having known all of that. And I learned this, I realized it in my final year in the government. I read a book, and it's like Harvard Business Review, 10 most seminal pieces on leadership. The first article was about emotional intelligent leader. And it took me by, like surprise to see a lot of, it resonated to me so much. Even though you know all the strategies, whatever framework you use, you want to use PLC, you want to use, I don't know, like other kinds of change framework. Even if you have the best team, but as a leader, you are very, very much about 2 things. Your judgment, your decision making. Judgment, decision making. When you are in the situation, and I imagine like leading transformation can be like leading battles. If you don't have the clarity to make judgment, your decision making will be all over the place. Even though that you know, even though that you have the potential intelligence, the best team, and the team will read your temperature as a leader. That's also setting the tone. So how you make sense of situation that then goes to your judgment and then goes to your decision making, it depends on how you regulate internally, your inner self. This framework that is famous is Daniel Goleman, right? It's about self-awareness, self-regulation. First, you need to be aware about what triggers you. People are different. What triggers you? What are your scars? What are your past trauma? What is your anxiety? What is your fear? You need to understand that. To understand why you react such way, and then you find ways to regulate. I'm more introverted, by the way, I'm introverted. I know that I can perform in the social setting, but I will be drained. I need to recharge. Because remember, biology, right? So if I don't have enough energy, I cannot process better. So I need to have my energy. So I know that I need to be surrounded by people who are extroverted too. That's also how I think about my leadership. I need to be accompanied by someone who can actually balance me. But you need to understand yourself and how to regulate yourself. There you can make better judgment, then you can make better decision making. And then you can also then understand the temperature of your ecosystem, of your stakeholders. So how you make the engagement and relationship also determined by how you regulate internally. And in the research by Daniel Goleman, this book that I said earlier, overall, emotional intelligence is more powerful than the two skills, the technical skills and the cognitive skills. Technical is basically just procedural, and the cognitive skills, what he meant by it, more like a, big picture thinking, visioning, analytical skills, that's part of it, finding patterns, cognitive. But even those two combined, for just regular stuff overall, emotional intelligence is more powerful to see the higher performers, right? But for senior leadership, the emotional intelligence capabilities accounted for almost 90%, the difference between average and the star performers. So it's like, oh my God, I never realized. I know that it's important, but I didn't realize it was that important. And especially at the senior leadership, especially when you're leading change. And I can relate to that. Again, for me, it's always two things about leaders: their judgment and decision making, right? And if you're not settled internally, it will go all over the place. I think that's it. So, lasting change in my hypothesis. I'm still learning about this. I'd love to learn from you too today. Not only about changing minds, you need to change hearts. And actually the lasting change, the foundation is that. If you have managed to change hearts, that's when your team will need you. And that's actually the most successful form of leadership. When you are no longer relevant, then you are a successful leader. And you can only do that if you can change hearts. Because of course you cannot teach everything, and the new problems will arise, and maybe you also don't understand. But they will figure out, because their heart is for the purpose. Goes back to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Iwan. Another round of applause, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move to the part of the morning where the room gets to do the talking. I'd like to invite our research manager, Ms. Mikaela Iman, to join Dr. Iwan on stage to moderate our Q&A session. Please welcome, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Anas. Okay. Thank you so much, Anas, and thank you so much, Dr. Iwan, for that fascinating presentation. I think I'd like to go to the floor straight away. I think I see a lot of notes being taken during the presentation. So I'll take about 2 questions at a time, and let's get the ball rolling.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
And a very good morning. My question is very simple. When transformation threatens the interests and privileges or establish a power structure of people inside the education system, how far should an education leader be willing to go? Is there a point where consensus building become obstacle to reforms? Thank you.
Anna, sorry, could I just get you to introduce yourself as well? Thank you so much.
My name is Wekar Ahmed bin Mohammed. I am from Shah.
Next question.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Nina Adlan Disney. I'm the MD of a social enterprise called LeapEd, and we're best known for our flagship program called the Trust School program, which is essentially a public-private partnership that was aimed at transformation, education transformation at scale. So a lot of what you said, Dr. Iwan, really resonates with our experience. And my question is this. In our experience, at the school level, it is possible to identify change agents and get them on board exactly as how you described. But our issue is with sustainability, because once we exit, once the program ends, The real struggle is for those reforms to continue, because there tends to be, I don't know whether this is just a Malaysian thing, but a wariness of interventions that have been done by so-called outsiders, right? So orang luar, and then they feel threatened a bit, like what the gentleman there says. An outsider had to come in and do the change. So sometimes, as you mentioned, there's sabotage. Sometimes there's just ignorance, right? They just ignore what has taken place. So the question is, how is it possible to get the system on board? Because you can change the hearts and minds of leaders and teachers within the classrooms, but it's really difficult to crack the system. So as a former DG, can you offer some insights? Thank you.
Okay. Wow, suddenly the most difficult question is how to change everybody. And I don't think that I did that, and we did that. For me, the law of diffusion of innovation was a tool to stay calm and to stay focused, and hopefully to stay productive. Because why? And we know, we can change maybe a group of teachers or school leaders, but to have a consensus, it's not realistic. So I think that realization to me was a great relief. And I think we can go back to all the history of the nation, the history of great leaders that maybe we want to refer to, like Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, or whoever leaders that you feel like you aspire to, or the journey of social change. No matter how amazing that person is, did they change everybody? No. So for me, I'm not that great. So I'm just for me, I feel myself, I'm still a teacher. So that's my core identity and a learner. So I play these roles. For me, it's okay. I'll do my best. But what I'm trying to do, and this is not easy because the law of diffusion of innovation is, for me, it's 20, 60, 20, right? You know how I see it? So I will focus on the 20. You know how other people see it? You are failing. 80% are still not on board. What are you doing? We've spent this money in budget and everything, only this very little. But when you understand that it is human journey, you'll be okay. And you're not blaming them. That's part of your emotional intelligence. You're not blaming them. They are not there yet. Maybe they have, because it's the nature of human being, their fear, anxiety. How can you guarantee your new thing works? We don't know. But we know the old ways are not working. Because this is like an always adaptive problem. There's no way that we know this will work, but we have certain propositions, bigger possibility this will be relevant. For instance, I give you an example. The first 3 months in office, the minister and the team decided to change from high-stake national exam that is focusing on rote memorization and hierarchy of subjects towards more foundational skills, literacy and numeracy, and the assessment is more like survey-based assessment because the focus is for system and the focus is for system learning, not punishing the school, not punishing the students. Beautiful idea, right? It's maybe like if you're in education, this is like, okay, this is actually where it should go. You know what we got? Attacked, of course. And but why we stay firm? Because we know it's no longer relevant for the purpose. We're building our human capital for the future. It must be relevant for the past. For the future challenges, we know it's no longer relevant. So we need to change, and the best way at the time that we know, okay, focusing on literacy and numeracy and character. Those are the long-lasting skills that we need to invest. Reducing the content of the curriculum of 40% of the past, so then to allow deeper learning, to allow teachers to teach at the right level. those are not easy decisions. I mean, you can defend it, but the human hearts, and you need to understand them too. They better the devils, So they're more certain about what is familiar, and that is part of making sense of this curve. They are not there yet. It's okay, and if God is kind to you, maybe you'll still going to lead this journey. But if not, that's okay. If your journey needs to stop, because again, in the public sector, it's okay. I've planted my seeds to what we feel is important for the future. I'm at peace with that. I'm not getting frustrated with, we haven't changed the next 80%. It takes stages. And I think this is also what we learn from our great leaders in history. They also went through these stages. They had these amazing ideas, but then the phase, even maybe until now, it's even not 100%. And it's okay. But planting those seeds with the time, resources that you have is more important. So, can you change everybody, the whole thing? Yes, you can. At a very quick time, yes, you can. How do you do it? By fear. Also human instinct. If it's something that's threatening their resource or how they make a living or their life, they will change. But you know what happened after that? They don't buy the ideas. They change because they're afraid. Is that kind of change that we want? And we chose not for us. Maybe in some conditions it works. That's what they want. But for us at the time, the change that we want is the change that people own. So it's a movement going beyond. So we're talking about the lasting impact, sustainable. We bet on changing the hearts, not changing because for the sake of change. And I think I came to the role in the government. I didn't expect to want to sustain my career in the public sector for a long time. I just thought that, I'm privileged because I was not confident as a leader. Again, I'm an introverted, so it's scary for me. I prefer my own quiet space, and But what drove me and made me more committed? It's because of the purpose. I felt I can contribute to what Steve Jobs said, a dent in the universe. I can do that. You can move just a little bit. Can you do that? I can contribute that. Okay, that I'm confident. I'm planting the seeds for the future. No matter how much time that I had, but it's the time that I had, and hopefully it will continue. So I'm at peace with not having to change everything. But I want to tell you one trick that I learned, connecting the dots backwards. Use what the land already provides you in terms of ownership of change. Don't use imported ideas, or even if imported ideas, you need to contextualize to what the land, your socio-cultural roots. That will be much more sustainable. For instance, I mentioned earlier about gotong royong. Gotong royong, I think we use that so many times because, for me, not because of the lip service. I saw that. I remember the story of this group of teachers and school leaders who decided to cross the islands to help other teachers. Where did it come from? They didn't have the funding. They didn't have any instruction. What drove them to help others? Because they felt the purpose and the social roots of gotong royong. It's there. So they felt this is not a policy because of I follow the minister or the leader. It's not about the leaders. It's about them, because it's connected to something that they understand, that the land already speaks to them since ages ago, and they felt that it's alive again. So when it is connected to their identity, they will own it. And for me, one of the stories that I heard after my post-government time was these school leaders, and usually in the past, only private schools who are kind of naughty in terms of If the government tells them something and they believe this is not the best for the students, the private schools will, okay, I'll comply, but I will have my own way. Like two kind of reporting, right? One for the government report, one is their internal report, the real one, right? Now, the agencies, even in the public schools, in these faraway areas, where did that come from? Because it's not about the government anymore. They're looking after their own students, and they want to do the best for their own students. They want to contribute to this mission. And I was like, one particular amazing school principal, when I met him, he was still 32 years old. And the new Bupati, head of Regency, wanted him to be the head of the education office. It's like the mini minister, right, of his Regency. So, and he said, oh, it's too high for me. I just want to do important work for still connecting with the real work on the schools. For others, that is crazy. You are chosen to be like the second most powerful person after your Bupati in the region about education, and you said no. Because why? For him, the purpose is not about the status of this, but for him, the purpose is how I can be most useful to serve the students. So they're operating now with a different kind, and for me, that's how the sustainable impact, I think, can happen. But I'm not dreaming about consensus, and I'm at peace at that. Even when it was still like 10%, meaning 90% still not on board, it's okay. I was like this teacher, school leader I met in Bali, and she said that, "Pa, this is already like 1 year trying to change my teachers," and she had like 20 teachers, right? So I'm still struggling. I said, "Bu, Ibu ada guru berapa? How many teachers do you have?" And she said 20. Yang kira-kira udah sama Ibu, maksudnya agree with you, masih 12 Pak, still 12. So, Bu, and I explained about this curve, right? Ibu, good job. Suddenly she was like, she smiled, and she saw it differently, and that's how it should be for change leaders, because it's the nature of everything, the nature of change, the nature of human being, and the nature of our environment. So don't be too hard on yourself, and do the best you can. Maybe that's my answer. I hope it answers. But yeah, too long maybe.
Thank you so much, and we'll do one last round of questions. In the front.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Iwan. I thought that was not only thought-provoking, but it was really a journey that most of us have gone through. But it's just that today you translated in a way whereby we understand one by one. As mentioned, I've been in education field for a long time, education leader in the ministry, and now outside. And one thing I noticed, based on your PLC, it is so actually so true. At the end of it, we are talking about purpose. Everything tied down to purpose. I just want to relate, because we are talking about students. I like to relate to what I used to do before. I had the privilege of being in the project management office when they were doing the education blueprint, the earlier education blueprint, 2013, not the current one, yeah? That is 2026. So what they did, actually, we look at the system, they did a lot of survey on the current education system then. And the findings of that system, they produced in 18 pieces of work only 18 reports, because it's supposed to be confidential. But one thing that I thought it is only fair that I would share this, you know. The findings at the end of it, you don't really get, I'm talking about my country, we don't really get the actual findings of what was actually happening in the country, the education system. There were a lot of other things that was not reported in a way that it should be reported. I will not mention it directly. But there are two things that was that actually we found out. We presented this, actually we worked with the consultant during that time, you know, and that we reported to the Prime Minister during that time, together with the Minister of Education. At the end of any system, the successful of schools, it depends on teachers. So we were saying actually, what is the first thing that actually determine the how your system, the school will probably be successful? Teacher. The second one also teacher. The third one also teacher. And of course, leadership is so important. You were a leader. So having the right leaders to understand the overview of the education system, it is the utmost important. Where do you want to take the system? Where do you want to take the country? You have already said it many times here. And I feel I just want to also adapt there, mention it. All those things were correct, but I think there is one quality that you didn't mention. It is subsumed. Actually, humbleness of the leader. Humbleness of the leaders, actually, the leaders in the Ministry of Education in our country, being humble, being able to accept what others from outside are talking. So the public-private partnership is the way to do things now. You don't know everything about it, and you have to get them to come in to give. And we have young people like Daniel, Sun Sing here. They have their own organization. These are the people that they ought to listen, and people who are old, mature like me probably. You know, we have all this knowledge, you know, and we don't mind giving them any time when they like. But I think in my country, I feel we have a fantastic blueprint, fantastic document that is being used by other countries. But I think what we are like actually is the humbleness from the leaders. You are not education people like me. I used to also think the same way. We only know about education. The rest of these people from outside, what do you know about education? So that type of perception should change, because people from other side will give values, and they are the people who would be able to see where you all have gone wrong. So sorry, it's a bit long.
No.
So my question is that I just would like to find out from you actually, how did you manage? You have your people down there, and then when you talk to your stakeholders here in our country, we have 30 over million. Each one of them are stakeholders of education. So how did you manage? Because what you talk about your teachers just now, they say, I'm not bothered about the office, but I'm bothered about my students. That is the type of feeling that we should have. You know, how did you do that? You know, being able to actually get them to embrace all this. Thank you.
I will also read a passage on the book later.
Sure. And perks of moderating, so I hope it's okay that I ask a question as well.
Okay.
It was great that you were talking about emotional intelligence at the end of your presentation. And your book actually opens by arguing that lasting transformation actually begins with the inner life of the leader, rather than the mandate that's given to them. So for someone who's about to lead their own team, where does that inner work actually start?
Okay, first question from Dato Satinaya, how to align that. I think for me, I tell you like a small story before I decided to join. I decided to join the team of the former minister because as a teacher, I think even though he was from non-education sector, and I never trusted before like a good education minister must be from education, right? Yeah. But I was wrong. It's a different kind of mindset. Doesn't bother, I think, from education or non-education. But I think the way he asked questions was always about how is it impacting the students. So no matter whatever conversation that I had before, I was just invited for him. He was going to be minister, and we were going to like he wanted to learn basically, and he invited me and other experts. But I like how he asked questions. His intuition was right. I was like, wow, even like leaders from education maybe didn't ask that question. So I think it really starts from the leadership. The leadership whose purpose is actually for the students. So I come to the leadership, this is maybe like the kind of internet, I come to be a leader to serve, and who I serve is those stakeholders, the teachers and the schools, but at the end of that all, how do I hold myself accountable whether it's making impact to the students? So that is, I think it starts from the leadership. The communication, make it simple, the way students, I think even the layman gets it. And multiplying the change agents, they will relay and strengthen this message at the grassroots level. You're not there, they're doing that for you. So I think those maybe are the things that I can share. And of course the social cultural roots, super important. If we, I think I can also resonate, Indonesia, Malaysia, we have a lot of similarities. If it's not resonating with our social cultural roots, people will not own it. They own it because you are there and because of the program is there, but it's not them. It's just attached to a program. So maybe I just like among other things. And your question was how to think about the mandate and also.
So basically, inner work.
Inner
as
work.
A leader, how do you start?
Well.
Loaded question.
No, yeah. It depends on your life mission. It comes back to why do you want, I mean, a leader, for me, like not a status or a position. A leader is actually someone who can influence and also empower others. You also are a leader in that sense. But if you talk about a position or a role, if your life mission is about status, maybe once you get the role, that's the most important thing. You want to protect that with all your might. But if it is about serving for a mission, I think as a person, I want to have, if someone asks me about that, I want to have the agency, whether I want to decide to join this or not. Have that agency is so important. But if this is talk about the mission, so how you struggle with the inner self, whether it's aligned with my life mission, then I'll join. If not, so I'll quit, or I'll find somewhere else. I became a teacher to start my career with so low salary, but I trusted my journey because I could work in the civil service, in the foreign affairs department. I could be, good career, become ambassador. But I wanted to be happy and have a happy life. And I found happiness in teaching, even though that didn't make much money at the time. But I just trusted, I believe if we do good work and we work hard, we will be taken care by God. So that's how I believe it. So for me, leadership, or if you mean a position or role, I have the agency to choose whether it's aligned with my life mission or not. I want to read a passage. Is it still okay? Yeah. I think Anas is still like, I know the body language there. Worried.
Many want to come and speak to you after this as well.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay,
Even if we put a mask on you.
Hang on. I have a gift for those who have ask questions for you later to get a book.
We should have led with that. Too late now.
But I have a passage that I want to read to all of you to close this. At the end of my book, I have a section, I call this a letter to the next generation. I'm writing to you, whoever and wherever you are, as you read this in another season of your life. Perhaps you're an engineer struggling to simplify a complex product. Perhaps you are a startup founder confronting market resistance. Perhaps you're a public servant with too many files on your desk. Or perhaps you're a junior team member who's still deciding whether to stay, to leave, to fight, or to rest. Whoever you are, this is for you. If I could offer one insight about leadership, it would be this. Every system is made up of fragile human hearts, trying to do their best within imperfect structures. Titles may give you authority. Only empathy gives you influence. Power can compel, but only trust can sustain. Hope is not naive. Hope is disciplined realism. The decision to build anyway, believe anyway, serve anyway. Systems do not have souls, but the people who run them do. When people say the system is broken, they often mean the relationship inside it have stopped listening. The cure is not only a new policy, it's a new posture. When they cannot hear you, listen harder. For leadership is not about volume, it's about resonance, finding the frequency where truth and grace can live in the same sentence. In the world that rewards certainty, it takes courage to remain soft. For softness is not weakness. It is the discipline to staying open when it would be easier to harden. It is the nurse who continues to believe in patient, who has missed 3 appointments. It is the product manager who keeps entering rooms filled with skeptics with a steady voice. Every meaningful reform is carried forward by people whose hearts break often, yet who choose to show up again tomorrow. The human spirit bends before it breaks. Nurtured by trust, it can become unbreakable. I hope you never confused urgency with importance. The world will always ask you to hurry. What matters most cannot be rushed. I hope you surround yourself with the people who think differently from you. Difference is not the enemy of harmony. It is the instrument that tunes it. I hope you find mentors who will remind you that kindness is a form of competence, and that efficiency without empathy only speeds toward wrong destination. When you fail, as we all do, don't let the fear of imperfection steal your impact. The people you serve need your sincerity more than your certainty. Every act of honest leadership adds a note to the chorus that will outlive you. By the time you read this, the world will have changed again. New tools will appear, crises will multiply, and there will be a temptation to automate everything, to make services efficient rather than human. The more digital the world becomes, the more sacred the human touch will be. Our challenge is no longer to choose between technology or humanity, rather it is to ensure that the one never erases the other. So to the next generation of leaders, in startups, ministries, hospitals, nonprofits, design with soul, lead with humility, and govern and manage as if your end users were in the room, even when they are not. If you've read this far, perhaps you have felt both hope and fatigue. Maybe you've discovered that progress isn't a straight line, it is spiral, circling back, learning again, moving forward anyway. If so, take heart, you're not alone. We close the book, but not the work. To lead change is to embark on a pilgrimage. You set out seeking a destination, a better school system, a more equitable policy, a transformed organization, yet along the way, the journey, in its own wisdom, reshapes you before you ever reshape the destination. You will walk with the valleys of doubt where the shadows of "it has always been done this way" will try to frighten you back to the safety of the known. You will face the storms of criticism where the wind will howl that you are naive and the system is too big, the roots are too deep. Do not fear the wind. The wind is only the universe testing the strength of your anchor. Remember, the treasure you seek isn't found by completing the project or receiving applause on the podium. It is in the eyes of the teacher who realizes for the first time in 20 years that she is trusted. It is the voice of the student who speaks up because the system has finally stopped talking and started listening. When you feel the weight of the mountain you're trying to move, remember, you don't need to move it alone. You only need to move the heart the person standing next to you. Then they will move the next one. That is the secret of gotong royong. It is the magic of ecosystem. So go back to your schools, your offices, and your communities, but don't go back as manager of task. Go back as guardians of hope. Listen to the silence between words. Honor the invisible struggles of the people you lead. Be the mirror that reflects their failures, not their failures, but their possibility. The system is vast, yes, but the human heart is vaster. Lead with your head, for the path is complex. Lead with your hands, for the work is heavy. But above all, lead through your heart. For it is only through the heart that we can transform systems of constraint into engines of human potential. The journey is yours now. Walk gently. Whenever this letter finds you, in the quiet office or in noisy work, co-working space, wherever, may it remind you that when the noise of the world grows too loud, you need to return to the simplest truth of all. Remember the people you serve, the purpose that called you, the promise you made to yourself when no one was watching. For me, the truth has always been the three words: students, students, students. For you, use the words that point to your center, could be patients, citizens, customers, community. The names may differ, but the posture is the same. They are and will always be the beginning and the end of everything that we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Iwan, for sharing those heartfelt reflections with us. We're honored to have you today. And for everyone in the room, I hope we've all come away reflecting more on our own purpose and the source of our inner convictions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michaela. Another round of applause.